I'm going to rule.
Good evening and welcome to All for United, where me and Ben here are going to try and pick apart what's gone wrong in our European season, what went wrong last night, what's gone wrong in the Premier League. But we're going to try and keep it upbeat as much as we can. It might be a bit tricky, but we'll give it a go. Ben, how are we, mate? After last night, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's a bit deflating, isn't it? Bit difficult to take. You never want to lose a final. But I tried to put it into some sort of perspective after the game and look at how we're going to go forward, which I think we'll cover quite a bit of that. But yeah, disappointing overall.
Yeah, it's a tough one to take, wasn't it? With the ramifications of it and all that. We'll definitely get into that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we were meant to be on at 8:00. We had a few sort of technical difficulties, but we're here now. Better late than never, I think is the saying. So yeah, like always with me when I do these sort of reviews and previews, we'll start with the lineup. What did you make of the lineup, Ben? What was your first thoughts when you saw the lineup? Obviously, there was a few maybe sort of headline grabbing decisions that you made.
Yeah, I didn't think there was too much you could kind of deviate from. I think the team that I'd put out or like preview before the game was like two differences, which was mainly Luke Shaw not playing and Agate being in midfield.
Yeah,
you just knew. Obviously, we already knew before the game that Spurs weren't going to have Bergvall or Maddison in midfield, so it felt like you go for an Agate and Casemiro in there just to kind of deal with their physicality. So they were the two biggest shocks. I don't think Luke Shaw's done much since he came back from injury to kind of warrant jumping straight into the starting 11. But then you could also argue he's got the experience in a final compared to someone like maybe a Heaven, maybe even Mazraoui at centre half.
Do you think that's what did it with Shaw? That experience of like the England final, and he's just an experienced player, isn't he? He's been around the block quite a lot. Do you think that's what did it?
Yeah, I think so, and I think he's probably the only left footer on that side that could probably play there, and ultimately he has the ability, doesn't he, to kind of perform on these big games. Like you say, we've seen it for England, we've seen it for United in certain games. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get into his performance afterwards. But it felt like a bad decision.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it's very easy to pick it apart, isn't it? In hindsight, obviously we had Mount coming in for Garnacho. I think that caused a few sort of question marks. Maybe Bruno being deeper for me was probably the one. Given the fact we probably all knew Spurs were going to pack that midfield, and they've always got legs and a lot of physicality, haven't they, in that midfield? Ugarte being benched for me felt a little bit of a strange one, maybe.
Yeah, I'm all aboard. Like, I like Agate. I think people are expecting too much from him on the ball. We knew he wasn't kind of a Modric or a Cruz or even a Carrick like we've seen at United on the ball. Who was going to get on and dictate play from deep. He's not that type of player. So you do need someone alongside him, like a Casemiro, like a Bruno, who can play through the lines. But we have Casemiro in the team, so that's fine. Yeah. You can put Agate in there. He wasn't great in the away game, the first leg where we won 3-0, but then he popped up with 2 assists. So you can't really argue with that. And I think he just brings a physicality that no one else in the squad has in that position.
Yeah, we're a little bit lightweight, aren't we? Is it fair to say we're a bit lightweight all over the park? Maybe that's something we maybe need to address. I think we're very easily bullied, and I think last night was a good example. They were fouling us all over the shop, bumping us all over the place.
Yeah, I think if you look at the team last night, the only 2 players you could say are physical is probably Maguire and Lenny Yoro. But Maguire's physical in a different way, where if you compare him to, say, Van der Ven, who was on the other side, who is rapid, who is agile, who can get around the pitch, Maguire's only physical if he can actually get his hands on you. If it's either side, Solanke just kept dropping off him, and Maguire couldn't go in there, and that was causing us seemingly problems before their goal, and then obviously the full dynamic of the game just changed from there.
Yeah. How did you think we started? I mean, the game as a whole felt very nervous from both sides, but how do you think we started in general?
I didn't think it was terrible, to be honest. We were obviously getting Ahmad on the ball quite a bit, and that seemed like that we were setting up to do that, getting Ahmad one-on-one with a Adogi on that side. It felt like Mason Mount wasn't involved much at all. It just seemed like we were working out to that side for Ahmad, which ultimately, yeah, that's fine because Ahmad's probably our best dribbler, best creator. But Tottenham got to grips with it and realised, right, they're just going to do this. So Basuma and Udogie were just kind of doubling up on him from that point. But we looked kind of comfortable. I think one of the commentators said both of the fans wanted someone to take control of the game. And I don't think either side really did, even in that first half. I think we had most of the possession but didn't really create anything. And they looked kind of comfortable, just sat in there. So, it was a good one.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it needed one of the teams to really take a hold of the game. I think it felt quite obvious to me early on that Mount wasn't going to work. Why do you think he didn't work? Because we know what he can offer in that 10 role. Why do you think it just didn't work? Why do you think it just didn't happen for him?
To be honest, I think it's just horses for courses. Ultimately, Spurs, are going to play a high line, which they didn't to start with. They kind of dropped in a little bit. But then as they got to grasps and realised that, look, not one of these is going to go in behind, because Mason Mount wasn't running in behind, Højlund wasn't, Ahmad doesn't really do that.
No.
So that kind of stifled all three of them together. And then, like I say previously, we were just directing our attacks down Ahmad's side, which meant Mason Mount, I don't know how many touches he had in the game, but it felt like less than 20. He did a couple of good bits on the outside, and then that was it, really. We didn't get to see him in any pockets. We didn't get to see him on the half turn, and that's where he's at his best.
As the kind of game went on with Mount, do you think, like I say, in hindsight's a wonderful thing with team selections. Do you think early on that he got that wrong and a Garner starting maybe would have been a little bit more effective?
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it, hindsight? Because I had Mason Mount in my starting 11 because I felt like he was a good option. He played well in the previous round. But I felt like we needed the directness from Garnacho to go in behind. And you saw as soon as he came on, we'll get onto the substitutes, I'm presuming, but as soon as Garnacho came on, he was a threat. Whether he creates anything, whether he scores a goal, he just causes some sort of panic in that back line, which Mason Mount can't bring. He doesn't have them type of attributes.
Yeah, I was maybe a little bit like you before the game. I wasn't too sure how he was going to go because Spurs are very solid defensively, aren't they? And I thought, Højlund was always going to start. I mean, we'll definitely get onto Højlund in a minute. We've got a section about Højlund. We'll get onto him. It felt for me that Mount and Højlund would have been a bit too easy for them to defend against because they're all very capable defenders, aren't they? The Spurs back line, and maybe the Garnacho Ahmad sort of combination would have caused them a little bit more problems. I don't know. After the fact is very easy to say, but it felt even before the game that Mount would have been a bit easy to defend against for me.
Yeah, you look at Van der Ven and Romero as defenders, and you think, what do they want from a striker? What's their kind of ideal striker? It's someone who's going to stand there and try and battle with them, which is what Højlund did. But Van der Ven just absolutely wiped the floor with him. What would have caused them a bit of uncertainty would be someone running in them gaps, because the fullbacks for them do go high. So if you can get someone running down either side of the centre halves, that's where you get feeling a bit cautious. But I think further and further it just got into the game, and with no substitutes coming on, they just creeped up and up and up, and then they ended up compacting the full pitch into about a 20-yard gap. Yeah,
I think it very much played into their hands, didn't it? How how it sort of developed. So before half time, I think we can probably both agree it was probably quite an even first half. We both had little bits. And then the Spurs goal. We'd have probably covered a goal like this so many times on this show throughout the season. Just sloppy on the ball, sloppy covering the passing, the man, and when he gets into the air, it's very erratic, very panicky. Is Shaw at fault there? Is Onana at fault there? Is Dorgu at fault there for communication? I mean, someone's at fault there, aren't they? Because it's a real mess.
You could go back as far as Bruno because he gave away the ball in midfield. He let Bentancur kind of run in behind him, who laid the ball back. So if you go that far back, it's Bruno. Dorgu at the back post didn't look comfortable with like the runners inside. Obviously, Johnson has been their best player and kind of most productive. You know he's going to be a danger. And then the rest of it, Onana and Shaw, I just think it's terrible. But you take all of that away, I think if you have a semi-decent... If Dean Henderson's in net, which is quite relevant at the moment, he saves that, doesn't he? I think any keeper we've had probably saves that.
Yeah, I mean, I think quite a few minutes like before the goal, there was a cross that came in, and Onana kind of came off his line, and then he went back. Just that uncertainty for me in the back line, I think would spread like wildfire. You wouldn't be sure what's going to happen. What do you make of Dorgu, by the way? Now we've had him a few months. Do you think there's a player there? Do you think there's like a long-term player there?
I thought it was actually decent last night, to be honest. I thought it was probably behind Euro. I'd probably say it was our best player on the night. And we spoke about him when he signed that he can fall back on his physicality, which you do see that he struggles on the ball sometimes. He struggles positionally, but I think physicality wise, is definitely an upgrade on what we've had there previously. I think the idea of having Luke Shaw there, it's great when you're on the ball, but if that was on the other side with Euro, I don't think that goal happens because Euro's probably talking to whoever the wing back is. It's just a bit of communication. But yeah, overall, I think it was decent last night.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he was one of our better players. Probably him and Euro, I'd say, would probably our best. So we go in 1-0 down at half time. A frustrating half, I think it's fair to say. And the second half starts. Spurs are very much parked the proverbial bus, haven't they? They're like, 10 men behind the ball. They're defending what they have. Even that in itself, I thought was not a nice touch for Ange, but that was almost like a bit of a change of what you'd expect them to do because they're normally very gung ho, aren't they? The fact that he was okay to sit on that 1-0 surprised me a bit, to be fair.
Yeah, we've actually seen this at United where managers are overly kind of in love with a certain system and are just so adamant to use it right until the very death when they're going to lose the job. Ten Hag in that FA Cup final, he went into a 4-2-2, changed it up. It's dropped Højlund, put Bruno up front, or Mane, whoever it was. And you look back and you think if he'd have done that 5 months ago and he'd been a bit more pragmatic, he'd probably still be keeping his job. I know there's talk about him getting sacked still. But yeah, you wouldn't have expected that for them to just sit in and look so comfortable with it, to be honest.
Yeah, like I say, it surprised me. I think they may go a little bit like we did last summer with the Ten Hag thing because they won a trophy. They might be, it's all nice and rosy again, and they'll give him and then they'll end up binning him off again. This comment in the chat here: the goal was unlucky, came off Shaw's arm, possibly, but we should have scored, so it wouldn't have mattered. And that comment brings me on nicely to our forward line, our main man, our number 9. Where do you go with Højlund? I mean, what is he doing? What is he offering? Just in general, what is he doing? Do you know what I mean? I don't like to down on the players, but I'm really struggling to be positive about him anymore.
Yeah, it's been rough for 3, 4, 5 months. And it's just got worse, to be honest. Sometimes you see a player, say like Weghorst, who you know is probably not good enough to play for United, but he's part of a system. He did all right. Similar with Igalo, but there's something about Højlund where he has got the attributes to be a good keeper, good striker. He's a big lad. He's quick. He showed last year that he has got some finishing ability, but it's just all disappeared. And all he seems to want to do is kind of wrestle with centre halves, and that's not his game at all.
No,
it doesn't suit the system. It doesn't suit any of the players around him to try and do that. So I'm just really confused at what he's even trying to do. And also from the coach's side, they're not pulling him up because he's been trying to fight centre halves for the entirety of the season, to be honest. So why has someone pulled him up and said, look, you need to either spin him behind or drop deep or do whatever it might be, but don't do that. And last night was just kind of icing on the cake, wasn't it, for bad performances?
Do you think it is a management thing, a management issue? That, as you say, I mean, we can all see that he's struggling to do what he's clearly being told to do. I mean, every game you watch him, the Southampton game comes to mind for me. I think Bednarek was their defender, and I don't think he would have ever had an easier game. He was just constantly beating him in the air. He was constantly just out muscling him. Is it a management thing? Is it a tactic thing, or is Højlund just, however bad it sounds, is he just not very good?
Ultimately, I don't think he's good enough for United, which is the crux of it. But it is still worrying about the coaches that it can go on for this long, because he never, ever runs in behind. And for me, as a manager, I would be saying, right, this game, just 2 or 3 times get in a tussle, that's fine. But then on the 3rd or 4th time, go in behind and see what the centre half does. And it just doesn't do that. So from both sides, all around, it just looks really worrying, and it's damning for going into next season.
Do you think we try and move him on in the summer?
Well, initially I was sat there thinking who's going to buy him, but it looks like there's quite a few suitors in Italy that the names already coming. Was it Juve and Inter Milan? I think were
Inter Milan.
Yeah. So if you can get a deal with someone like that to kind of move him on for 25-30 million, I feel like you cut your ties and maybe look at reinvesting that in, like we say, probably a Delap or another.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Like I said, I don't like doing it to United players, but I've kind of had enough of him. It's shit to say, but I just have. I think we need to just accept we've got it wrong. We wasted a lot of money on him and move him on, and like you say, cut our ties. So we go into the second half. Second half just kind of plodding along. I'm saying to my wife here as I'm watching the game, fuck me, he needs to be changing it because it's not working. Bruno Deeper's not working. Mount in the 10 isn't working. Højlund, he may as well not be there. It's not working. But he's waiting. And what was it, 70 minutes maybe he makes the sub? 75 minutes or something? Why is he waiting that long?
I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. It was clear as day that you needed someone direct to just come. I'd have brought Kobbie Mainoo on, to be honest. I said after the game, he should have come on because he has that ability in midfield where we had so much of the ball in that second half. And that they obviously brought on Danzo, which just meant they were going to sit in a back 5, clear as day. And if they defended the crosses, they were going to get through the game. That was it. So he needed someone like a Kobbie Mainoo or like a Garnacho. So to wait that long was just mind-boggling. I think someone said it in the comments that that's what Ollie did in the Europa League final.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they almost freeze in the moment, not sure what to do. And then all of a sudden, you've only got 20 minutes in the game. But yeah, really disappointing, to be honest, from Amarin that.
Yeah, I mean, by the time he made the subs of Garnacho and it was Xerxes, wasn't it, that come on, I think, together, and then Mainu came on a little bit later, did he? I think we looked a little bit better. I think you could see Xerxes was knitting it together a little bit better than Hoyland was. Just never felt like we were going to score, though. I think we could have played for another hour. It just never felt like that goal was coming, did it?
No, it had got to the point, like I say, they brought on Danzo.
What a shame.
They were so comfortable. All them three defenders are comfortable being physical and comfortable defending the box. And what did United do? They tried to get it wide and put crosses in. It's just bizarre, really. You need to be getting down the side of them centre halves, which is why Garnacho needed to come on. I'd have brought him on at half time, to be honest. I don't think that first half was good enough from quite a few players. So you could have made 2 or 3 changes at half time to actually impact the game. But yeah, too late.
So, given all that we've said, did Amorim get it wrong yesterday? In the lineup, in the subs, tactically maybe? Did he just have a real bad day at the office yesterday?
Yeah, really bad as well. I said after the game I'd have probably given him a 2 out of 10 in terms of the starting 11. I don't think was justified. It looked like he hadn't worked out what Spurs were going to do, even though they've got 6, 7, 8 players out. You basically knew that was the team they were going to play and how they were going to play. And then to get 70 minutes into the game and not make a sub is bizarre, because everyone at home is screaming, make a sub and do this. And it seemed so obvious what we needed to do. But yeah, really bad day at the office.
Do you think anyone had a good game yesterday? I know we've mentioned Dorgu played okay. I think Eurpa was maybe the standout for me. I've seen Bruno take a real lot of stick on social media today. How that narrative has turned very quickly with 90 minutes of football is a bit poor for me. But he didn't play well, did he? And he's our captain, he's our talisman, as they like to say. And did he go missing, or was he just marked out the game? And we are a little bit ineffective when teams do that to us.
I did a video saying, should we sell him now? Given, and then caveated in that saying that I still think he's our best player by a country mile. That's not why I think we should maybe sell him. It's just timing of, we're probably not going to get back in the Champions League. If we get back in the Champions League in the next 3 years, I will be surprised, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then by that point, Bruno Fernandes is 34, 35. We've got no resale value on him. If we can go and get even 100 million for him this summer, do you take that? Because we're not going to have a cup final next year, likely. We're going to be about, if we finish in the top half next year, considering how this season's gone, that's probably a successful season. Do you need Bruno Fernandes to do that? Maybe not.
Right, I'll get him.
Yeah, last night he just seemed to be a bit giddy. It was all Bruno, wasn't it? Where he was trying weird stuff. He wasn't just keeping the ball and moving. That was probably part of him playing deep and feeling the responsibility of having to create the chances. Whereas when he's playing in them positions that are slightly higher, he just plays off instinct more so. He doesn't have to think. And for someone like Bruno Fernandes, you think, well, he should be smart enough to play like that. But it's a massive game for him. And yeah, he went missing ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, our mate does. He thinks Bruno's the best number 10 in world football, and that it's. I mean, he's quite extreme with his comments. He thinks it's a sackable offence to play the best number 10 in world football that deep. Does he have a point?
Yeah, he does ultimately. Because you are limiting. I see what he's trying to do by playing him deeper. And I do understand that. But then on the other hand, you have to go and win them games. You can't just sit in and hope to keep hold of the ball and play nice progressive passes. the one player in this team who could have created a chance or made the pass would have been Bruno Fernandes. So you look at him sat deeper. Eventually, at the end of the game, he ended up near the centre halves, getting on the ball.
Yeah.
And you know straight away when Bruno's doing that, we haven't got anyone to pass the ball to him higher up. So he's just getting ridiculous and going mad with it. But yeah, he's not far off the best in the world, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange to agree with Daz. I know it took you off guard, didn't it? There, it's strange. But sticking with Bruno, so we obviously didn't win last night. If anyone hasn't seen, we obviously didn't win last night, and it puts us in a little bit of a financial hole, doesn't it? Given the fact, like Radcliffe says, we still owe sort of transfer fees for players that we own, and we obviously want to reinvest in the team. Bruno's age, he'll either be 31 soon or he is 31. As you say, no European football, United are skint, and then you have the Saudis coming in with a big bag of money. I know none of us really want to let Bruno go, but is the reality of the situation gonna maybe force the board's hands that we need that 100 million quid would do us quite well, and could we reinvest that in younger players? For me, it's a kind of like balancing thing of how much will we lose if Bruno leaves, but how much good can we do with 100 million quid or 150 mil? I'm not too sure where I sit with it. I'm probably edging, if the money's big, to say okay because of his age, and like you say, we're not going to be in Europe. Could we get away with it?
It's probably the hardest decision we've had to make post Sir Alex, to be honest, because he's been our best player post Sir Alex. So to kind of say we're going to sell him would be, I still don't think he'd know until 24 months down the line whether it was a good decision. Because we think we're going to go out and get Cunha, we think we're going to go out and get Delap. After that, I don't know where we're going. But if you sell a Bruno Fernandes on top of, say, Rashford, Anthony, Sancho, could you then go and get an Mbeumo and a right wing back? And then you're looking at that and you're thinking, right, we've lost, is it 19 goals, is it Bruno's got this year? But then you've got Cunha and Mbeumo, who between them have scored, and Delap, they've probably scored 60 goals or something like that between them, 50, 60 goals. So is that an improvement? And the age profile of that front three has just come down. And then you've got Ahmad, you've got Xerxes to put in there.
Mm.
When you lay it out like that, it might not be a terrible decision. It'd be a tough one, but maybe not a terrible one.
Yeah, like I say, I think if the Saudis come in and concrete that offer, I think they're going to be having real discussions. I'm not sure. I know after the game he said he's not financially driven, didn't he? Yeah. And I think it probably would be a bit of a waste. I just don't see anyone else paying the sort of money that we would want, because I think we will want big money for him.
Yeah, you almost want, if he's leaving, you want him to go to like a Real Madrid, Barcelona, and kind of win trophies, win Champions Leagues, just for our peace of mind, really. But if he goes to Saudi for a bucket load of money, it'd be hard to take, won't it, either way?
Yeah, it'll be a proper gutter. It will just be kind of like the cherry on the cake of how fucking miserable being a United fan is, wouldn't it, at the moment? So we've kind of covered where we are in the transfer market a little bit, but we'll go into slightly more depth now. Losing that game last night, where do you think that leaves us in the market? Obviously, Cunha, I've seen a few reports today that it's very close to the sort of, here we go, or whatever it is, Fab says. That sounds like that's pretty much rubber stamped. My worry now is, where do we go for a striker? Does that then become Leon Delap really is the number one target, and that is where they're going to go because he's cheap?
Yeah, I think it will be Delap. Last week I got a bit giddy with the rumours of Gyökeres being I think it was 65 million euros, which is like 50.
About 55 million, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was initially thinking that was going to be like 70 million pound to go and get Gyökeres, which felt like out of the price range. But for 55 compared to say 30 for Delap, I think you go and pay that for Gyökeres, given what he's done.
You think it'd still come?
This is the thing. I don't know if he will now, because Arsenal are going to be all over it. Liverpool potentially might be in there. Newcastle, if they lose Isak, could they go in for him? I think we're 5th, 6th, 7th on the list, and the only hope we've got really is that he's played under Ruben Amorim. Whereas if we'd have won last night, Champions League football under the lights at Old Trafford, it's a different story, isn't it?
Yeah. So I agree with you on Gyökeres, by the way, what you're saying. I agree with you. We obviously had the comments from Garnacho last night, didn't we? Straight after the game. Basically saying the season's been shit. We haven't beat anyone. He's kind of thrown his toys out the pram and all that. Back in January, there was talk of like 50, 60 mil that we could get from Chelsea or Napoli or whatever. In my head, I have the sort of cogs turning. Do we sell a Ghana to bring in a Gyökeres? Do you kind of go out one door and bring in someone else? And could that work?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think after Cunha and 25, 30 million for Delap, we're going to have to sell players if we want to either buy a different player like a Gyökeres or buy more. So I think if you can get Garnacho out, then you maybe look at a Gyökeres, or maybe you go to like an Mbeumo after that, or maybe Cherky from Lyon. But they feel like extra if we sell someone else. It feels like the money that we're going to get from Rashford, Anthony, and Sancho is being put into Cunha and Delap, and then anything above and beyond that is just who we can sell.
Yeah, I mean, they've said, haven't they? Or the rumours are that we can afford Cunha and Delap regardless of what happened last night. And I think that probably is Rashford, Sancho, them kind of knowing what sort of deals they're going to get there. What did you make of Garnacho's comments?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you know, on one hand, I totally get it from his point of view, because he scored in finals and he played like 30 games back to back for this manager when he was going through turmoil with injuries and stuff. So it does feel like a bit of a stab in the back. But then don't come out and say it after a cup final. I don't know whether he thought he can get away with it, because I think it was an Argentinian interview, wasn't it?
Right.
But obviously, given the internet, people can now translate. It's not difficult to do. So yeah, he's got a young player's mentality, hasn't he? Where he's very social media, very kind of comes out and says stuff after the games. But Amorim went back at him as well, didn't he? He said, "Who missed a chance in that semi-final?"
Yeah,
I don't like that either, to be honest. I think if you're going to deal with something like that, go into a room at Carrington and have a scrap, do whatever you want to do, but don't let the media.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few reports today that they had a bit of a Barney in the dressing room. Do you think we'll see Ghana play again for us?
With the right side.
Maybe against Villa. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we get a decent deal, I think he's definitely gone. Definitely gone.
Yeah.
I feel like there was rumours of him and Kobbie Mainoo, wasn't there, potentially being up for sale at the right price. I don't think it'll happen with Kobbie this summer. I think he'll stick around. But I think Garnacho's got to the point where he's been in the system for a long time. He's played 30-odd games. And he's been good in parts.
Yeah.
What we need. So if you get 60 million, he has to go.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. I mean, as I say, I think if we can get that money and reinvest it quick into improving the squad, I think we'd all probably be okay with that.
It is actually
So
a
that's
good deal from United side, going out and identifying him. I think we paid about 500,000 for him
yeah,
initially, which going out and then reselling him for
yeah,
50, 60 million is actually a good deal.
it's good
just,
business.
Yeah, it's just a bit sad.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with me at the moment with how we get in with the players. It feels very sort of always feels like a bitter sort of relationship as which I'm not a big fan of. So we've kind of covered last night. I mean, how would you reflect on the Europa League now that it's over? Obviously, last night was fucking like bottom of the barrel shit. But how would you reflect on it? I mean, I did a video on TikTok, a sort of preview on TikTok, and I said the team I did not want in that final was Spurs because it's the Premier League thing. It feels like they've got a bit of a hoodoo on us. But with the exception of Spurs, we kind of handled everyone else quite well, I thought.
Yeah, and some brilliant games in there as well. If you'd have gone on to win that game, you look back and you think, right, I was at the Leon game. That's the best game I've ever been to. Like unbelievable night. And then the Athletic game away was obviously an unbelievable game. So you think, are them memories kind of tarnished now because you haven't got anything to show for it at the end? And I also look at it and think as well that we basically gave up in the Premier League in end of Feb, beginning of March, which isn't good enough for Manchester United. If that was Arsenal doing that, I'd been making videos every day saying like, "What are you doing? This is embarrassing." With all of the reliance on this game to go in and kind of go in there, win a trophy, and then you move on next season. Mourinho did it, but he actually won the trophy.
Yeah,
So you look back on that with a fondness, whereas this just feels like we've done so much damage in the league and kind of reputation wise that, it's very difficult to come back from, really.
yeah, I agree. It would have been such a good cup to win, because like you say, the games we've had. Yeah, I mean, we'd have looked back on it with some real fondness. But you mentioned the league, and I think that's a good sort of segue that we can go into the league. So we got one game left. Yeah, no one really gives a shit what happens on Sunday. The league, it's definitely the lowest I have ever known United, and so I'd assume probably you as well. What the fuck's happened in the league? I mean, I agree with you. We did kind of throw the towel in sort of February. But I saw earlier that when Amorim came in, we were 7 points possibly off fourth.
Yeah.
And that was that October? Amorim came in, I want to say October, November, something like that.
Early November, wasn't it? I think.
So what the hell's happened in these 6 months? Does he have a bit of a free pass, or has he gone past this free pass and he's become?
Now.
Yeah,
He doesn't now. The start of next season, I reckon he's probably got 6 or 7 games at the start of next season.
Yeah.
And if we're not right by then, there is going to be hell on. the TikTok and Twitter and everything will be exploding, saying to get rid of this man. Ten Hag had the reliance of winning, obviously, the trophies. Amorim hasn't got that. We haven't got the argument that the squad's thin and we're in Europe. We're going to be playing one game a week in the league. If you cannot get it right after you've signed a few players in the summer, there's going to be massive questions. And I don't know where it's gone wrong this season. It just felt like our expectations like you say, by October, November time, it was like, oh, we can't get in the Champions League, so we're just going to completely down tools. And it felt like even the fans were doing that as well. Like the Premier League games from February onwards, I've obviously watched the games, but with no sort of care in the world, to be honest. Normally, it used to hurt when you lost a Premier League game, especially at Old Trafford. But it feels like now people just turn up to Old Trafford and go home with 3 points.
Expect it.
Yeah. And we come on and we say, oh, we're disappointed, the shit, the this, the that.
Yeah.
But what does that change? Nothing, because it just keeps happening.
See, that's a big thing for me that that it's become the norm. I can't remember who we played the other day. It might have been West Ham.
Yeah.
I'd just come back from like my holiday in Italy. I kind of touched down in Manchester Airport. We like 2-0 down, and I said to the missus, I was like, United are just doing United. That's what we do now.
Yeah.
Just that mentality that we're Man United, for Christ's sake. I mean, we this thing that we can only get up for one game a week. Fuck me, Fergie would have had none of that when we were going for like trebles, doubles. That's just a standard of what's happening at United. Feels like it's like real rock bottom for me, and that does my head in, like the acceptance. Because I agree with what you're saying, that people are going to watch United. We're watching it on the box. Like I'll watch it on Sunday against the Villa, last home game of the season, and I'll probably expect Villa to do us sort of 2-3-4-0 because we're proper fucking pony, aren't we? But it's that acceptance. I can't get my head around that.
No, and it's like I say, I laugh at other teams and other fan bases, and I'll take the mick if like they're focusing on one tournament. Like I've always said, Arsenal they drop out of cup competition so they can focus on the league, and they never win the league. But we're the exact same. We're worse, like considerably worse. And like you say, the expectation. I went to the Athletic game at Old Trafford where we were flying into that. We were 3-0 up after the first game. And then 20 minutes into the game, the crowd was just dead. It was so unusual to see. You should be bouncing to be in a semi-final, 3-0 up. And it was just it felt so flat. And I don't know whether it was like a nervousness or just kind of, this is United and they're not playing very well. And I think that's just spread across the whole team, the club, the fan base, everything.
Yeah, I mean, whether it is there is almost an expectance now for us to fuck it up, kind of like we nearly did against Leon, the way we nearly did against Coventry last year. Bad habits that I think will be hard to shake. But sticking with Amarin, do you think we're in for another sort of summer where a lot of fans will be like last summer? We had, I'd say, maybe a 50-50 split in the fan base of people that were okay with Ten Hag after he won the FA Cup, and then fans who wanted him gone sort of before the FA Cup were done with him. Do you think we're kind of going down that route now, that fans are going to be waiting for us to fail at the start of next season to get him out? Or do you think on the whole, the fan base is still behind him?
It feels more like a defiance almost. I saw someone did a video a couple of weeks ago saying, why are United fans still singing for Amarin? And it's not that we're singing because we think he's a tactical genius and he's improved us. It's just like a defiance thing of, we're not going through this again. We're not sacking another manager and giving him 2 players and then getting rid of him in November. It feels like that's what the fan base don't want to happen, ultimately. If he's going to fail or he's going to succeed at United, you need to give him the pieces and then judge him from that point. Whereas it feels like every manager prior to that has had like the rug pulled under him, like in the second season. Ten Hag, I think, massively wanted De Jong. That didn't happen. I think that would have been a massive deal for him. And that's littered through every single team, isn't it, ultimately? Ollie wanted Harry Kane and got Cristiano Ronaldo at 35-year-old or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I think it's more so that where we just want to back him and see where it gets to. Because I don't know if the formation is right for United. Do you feel comfortable with it? Do you look at it and think it looks good? Or... Because I don't.
I don't know. I'm still in the sort of... In my head, I'm thinking if he has better players or players that are more adapt to play that system, will it then work? I mean, like this comment says here, we're not picking and choosing games. We're basically just missing loads of chances. We're not scoring goals. Is it that are the players just not good enough rather than Amarin being shit?
Yeah, because I think when we've ever been on the cusp of playing well, Rasmus has missed a chance or
Yeah.
Onana's chucked one in his net. So
Yeah.
there is that side of it. Ultimately, this squad is so bad. You look back to the end of Ollie's reign. I think he obviously had Ronaldo, Sancho, Rashford. I think Lingard was even still there. Cavani was there. All of them walk in this team. Jesse Lingard in that number 10 position, I think he'd look great. Obviously not at his current age, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cavani up front, it'd be life-changing at this point.
Yeah.
So the squad's not there. It needs a massive work. But it's on Ineos, isn't it, to get it right?
So I kind of think like people were very much Ten Hag shit, Ten Hag's this, Ten Hag's that. Same squad. And then Amarin comes in, same squad, and we're still shit. Isn't there a connector here that's the same with both managers, that we're still shit? Like last season, minus something goal difference, was it? So we weren't scoring goals last season either, and we're now not scoring goals this season. So there's an issue there. The one that sticks in my head is McTominay. I think he'd be fucking perfect in this system as a 10.
Yeah.
Going forward, what he's doing at Napoli that's a real sickener, I think.
It's embarrassing.
But yeah, I'm of the opinion that you back Amarin. Now, obviously, without winning last night, what sort of level they can back him, I think is a bit of an issue. So we've not hit 40 points yet in the Prem. Got one game left, and that's a shocker. That's a real shocker. We both said that we're happy for Amarin to be back, so that's sort of given. But do you think it's fair that questions are asked? Do you think it's fair that, like he came out last night and said, if the fans and the board don't want me, I'll walk away. No compensation. Yeah. Do you think it's fair that fans are wanting him to go? Do you think he's done enough to warrant the fans' faith?
I'm not going to bother making stuff.
I mean, ultimately, if you say, would he still be in the job at Real Madrid? Absolutely not. They'd have had him out a couple of months ago, regardless of timing or whatever it might be, or having the squad. Would he be in Barcelona or would he be in Bayern Munich? No, it'd have been let go by now. We're in a slightly different situation at United, like we say, with a squad. And there's also a resentment towards the board, whether that's Ineos or the Glazers, that if we've got something that we can cling on to, and like I say, that defiance of he'll bring the glory days again. We don't have a clue if he's gonna. Ultimately, we have no idea if he's good enough. So people are perfectly valid to go out there and say this isn't good enough. We want rid of him. But also on the other hand, fans like me and yourself, we want to back something. That's also valid. So it's just like a really difficult situation.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. The board have come out today and said that, and apparently said that he's safe. It's never a question to get rid of him, which in itself, kind of history tells us when the board says you're safe, maybe you're not always safe. But there was a few reports going around last week that after the Brighton game in January, he apparently offered his resignation. I'm not sure if you saw that, and that the board rejected that. If that's true, is that worrying that he wanted to leave?
Yeah, mentality-wise, you look at it and you say, yeah, that is a little bit worrying. He said it last night as well, didn't he? I think he said, if they want me to go, I'll leave without compensation.
That feels like he's giving the board a chance almost to say, well, I don't know.
But he keeps doubling down on this is the worst Man United team ever. This is this. And he's charismatic, he's honest, he'll come out and say what he's going to say. But then also on the other hand, I want him to come out and just maybe lie to us once or twice.
Yeah.
Like Mourinho used to do. He used to come out and say, "We've won a trophy," and it was a training ground trophy or something like that.
Yeah.
Come out and he backed the team and backed the players. It feels like he came in and he knew that being honest was going to get the fans on side, which it did. But then the further and it's gone on and it's got worse. We're sat here thinking, does he have a clue what he's doing?
Yeah.
It's odd. Yeah.
How do you feel about his press conferences?
I think he's great in terms of what you want to hear and being charismatic. I think he's really good, and that's one of the reasons why I want him to succeed, because I can imagine him winning titles, and I think he'd be like gold with the media. He'd be so charismatic, and it'd almost get to the point where other fans are looking at him with envy. If we were winning titles, Liverpool and City would be looking at him and thinking, he's good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if it was Ten Hag winning a trophy, he's awkward, he's a bit clumsy. And you don't really have that kind of envy of wanting to make your team. It's probably similar to us with looking at Klopp and thinking, I hate Klopp and what he did at Liverpool. You also kind of respect it, don't you, because of the person he is. And I think Amorim could be at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I like him as a person. He just needs to start getting it right on the pitch, doesn't he? So given that, if you had to name 3 players to sign, like realistically in the summer, not like Vinicius, Mbappe, and I don't know, Rodri or whoever, 3 realistic players to sell and to buy. So not Rashford, Sancho, but people that are in our team now, to sell them and then to bring 3 in. Who would it be?
Ooh, I'd sell Garnacho if we got 60 million. I think that's valid.
Yeah.
I would sell Højlund if we got 30 million. So what are we at there? 90 mil.
90 mil.
And then I'd sell. I don't think we can sell any of the defenders, really. I feel like we're quite settled there, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'll sell Luke Shaw then.
Luke Shaw?
I don't think we've got any money. I'll sell Luke Shaw for 10 mil.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That'll round us up to 100.
Okay.
And then I'd get Cunha. I'd go and get Gyökeres because I think he's a level above.
Oh my days.
And I like that Steeler, but I think he's reported to go to Real Madrid. I think he'd add something in midfield.
The guy with a mad nose.
Yeah.
He's got like a big fucking hooter, innit? Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a big one, but he's a hell of a player. And I think I think him and Agate will probably complement each other quite well. If you could flip it and get rid of Onana and go and get a new keeper, I'd probably do that as well.
Would you bring De Gea back if you could?
No. I saw when Rooney said that, didn't he? He did an interview and he was like, "Oh, the first player I bring back will be De Gea." So that's an indictment, isn't it, on Onana? I'd probably go and get Emi Martinez is leaving Villa. I don't like him. I think he's arrogant, but he'd almost be our dickhead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. He's like one of those players that you'd love on your team, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's slightly overrated, but I think he's a massive upgrade on Onana.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd take him. Where do you land on Liam Delap? I think I've seen you kind of sway from differences of opinions over the last couple of months. Where would you land on him if he is our number 9 next season? How would you feel?
I still think that's an upgrade on Højlund. And I think people think he's similar to Højlund in terms of it's big, it's physical, and can run. But his box movement is a lot better than what Højlund is. You've got to remember he scored. How many did he get in the Prem? 14.
Yeah, 12 of it.
Yeah, something like that.
What a save!
He's playing for Ipswich, where if you bring in Acuna, you've got Ahmad for the full season behind him. You've got Bruno behind him. I think he probably probably get 15 in the league, which for 30 million, I think we're happy with. But it's just that enticing thing of Gyökeres for 55. If we are in that race, I think you go and get him first.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Gyökeres is. I think he'd probably be who Ruben wants, isn't he? Really, and then yeah, I think that's probably why they've stalled on that Delap thing a little bit. I think Cunha is very much. They're very much in the sort of driving seat on that, and I think they're kind of waiting with that Delap thing to see where it lands. Where do you land on that comment there? He's an ex-City player. We don't want him. Delap, obviously.
He didn't have much part at City, did he?
No. Wasn't Sancho an ex-City player as well?
Yeah, I don't think he was a big enough part of the team to kind of worry about that. I saw someone linking us to Jack Grealish the other day, actually.
Yeah. How would you feel about that?
If it's a cheap deal, I think he'd look great in that number 10.
Yeah.
Almost to spite City, to bring the best out of him, would be quite nice. I always liked him. I thought he should have been a United player at the time. But yeah, you could get him on a cheap deal.
He looks very good in the 10, don't he? For England when he plays in the 10 for England, he looks totally different. I don't think he's good enough to do what City want him to do. He's a very good player, but I don't think it fits what City want him to do. But that'd be an interesting move if we could make that happen. Do you think Rashford will go? Do you think that's rubber stamped and he will go and someone will pick that up? Maybe Villa, or do you think he'll go elsewhere?
There was rumours Barcelona were going after Diaz, but Rashford was second on the list.
Right.
So given the way Liverpool are moving, Diaz might leave. But if not, I think Rashford definitely gets a move. Barcelona number one priority. After that, you're looking.
Does he get into that Barca team?
Probably not. Probably
no.
He doesn't start, does he? You don't play him over Yamal or Rafinha.
No.
But then it's Barcelona, isn't it? It's a massive club. And there's nothing to say that he can't go to La Liga and start smashing it again. Because I think he'd be too quick and too physical for a lot of them. And he'd probably
I think it'd suit him. Yeah. Where does this one land on you? Where are you on the? I can see us keeping Sancho, even though I don't want him. Daz is in a very similar mindset on that. He thinks Chelsea will pay the penalty and send him back to us. Where do you land on that?
Right. Get rid of him in whatever way you possibly can.
Drive him to the airport quick.
Yeah. Take him to Germany and drop him off at Dortmund and say, we'll pay half his wages, even. Just take him off us.
Do you think there's some players, maybe like Sancho, maybe like Anthony? I'm not sure what his wages are. That we may have to cut our losses a little bit and take a hit on players just to get them out if we're struggling to move them. So I don't think it's really advantageous for us to send Anthony on loan again. I mean, I'd rather get rid, because he's playing really well, and he over there kind of take advantage of it. Do you think he'll stay at Betis, or do you think we'll have him back and try and?
I don't think they've got the money to buy him now, have they? Which is the issue. I think if you could get, there was rumours of like £30 million, I think, wasn't there? Yeah. That would kind of cash out for. If you can,
but do you see that?
Get that now, given that he's performed so well.
Do you see that with loans? Like when we send players out on loan, do you think that's it then? Or do you think some players are getting sent out on loan to maybe get confidence to come back? Or do you think people like Anthony and Sancho, that it's just, that's it, like you've gone, we just can't sell you, so we're going to send you out on loan?
A United loan is the wages are too high to sell them.
Yeah.
So we're going to loan.
Yeah.
A lot of other clubs, it might be like Mason Mount at Chelsea, for example. He went to Derby and stuff, didn't he, to kind of get that experience and then come into the first team. But with your big players like Rashford, like Anthony, if you could sell them, you'd sell them.
Yeah. There's another one for you. Dalla. another player that I've seen split opinion. Where do you land on Dallo?
It's difficult, isn't he? I love his passion, and he gets it. I think he understands United and what it's about. But I just don't think he's at the level. He always lets you down at some point. He might have 15 great games, but he'll have an absolute clanger one game, and then you're struggling, aren't you, to see him in the team.
Do you think he's still? Do you think he's still at that stage where it was Wan-Bissaka was very good defensively and Dallo was very good going forward? Do you think he's still there? That he's not good enough defensively?
Yeah, and he's slightly improved on that, but he's got worse going forward as well, hasn't he? So
yeah.
He's not good enough to play he's not like a Mazraoui who can play centre half in this formation, and he's also not good enough going forward to play at right wing back. So you're looking at it and thinking, yeah, but he's potentially someone. I reckon you could get 30 million for Dalot to sell him.
Yeah.
And then can you reinvest in someone who suits it more?
Do you agree with that comment?
Who have we got? Dalot, Shaw, Anthony. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think like everyone is up for sale? Do you think it's like a big like fucking like car boot sale for Man United and everyone can go?
I think there'll only be two players that aren't. It'll be Lenny Yoro and Ahmad. I think barring that, every single other player, if you've got enough money for them, you'd sell.
Right.
Which is worrying, isn't it? That
yeah,
like you say, car boot sale. But yeah, it's like Maguire, isn't it? I think he's been quite an important player in this system. But if you've got 20 mil for Maguire now, you'd probably take that, wouldn't you? Given his age, given his kind of stature.
And his wage, you'd assume is fairly hefty. I don't know. You'd assume it's quite big. So yeah, so I think we're done. I think we can agree that yesterday was shit. Premier League position is fairly shit as well, and everyone is for sale. I think that's kind of where we are.
It's a good way to end the season.
Yeah, like this comment here saying Bruno won't go. What's the other one? Sell. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah, I think. Do you agree with the sort of notion that thank fuck the season's over type thing?
Yeah, I do. I always get a bit jaded, especially since I started doing TikToks. I get a bit jaded by the end of the season, and you're thinking, I could.
What are you going to post?
Just a bit of a break from actually watching football, because I do spend a lot of time just watching games, watching highlights, watching stuff like that.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to kind of just do a bit of stupid stuff over the summer and talk about random stuff, really.
Yeah, it'd be nice not to like this show every week. I love doing it, but having to like bash United every single week is just like, ugh. So hopefully next season, yeah, it really is. It really is. Hopefully next season will be better. Ben, it's been great having you on as always. Tell everyone where they can find you, mate.
Yeah, just over on TikTok at the minute. Daily videos on there. Like I say, over summer and stuff, I'm going to try and do a bit more like live videos and stuff like that. Try and just chat a bit more rubbish, to be honest. But yeah,
I like doing the lives. I like doing the lives over on TikTok. They're good fun. And from everyone at All for United, happy birthday, by the way. Happy belated birthday. The big 3-0, wasn't it?
I'll show you this actually.
Go on.
It's supposed to be a
bobblehead. Yeah. That's wicked.
There you go.
Nice.
Nice. I got.
Wicked. It's all downhill now. Now you're 30. That's it. It's all downhill now.
I know.
But yeah, always enjoy having you on, pal. And to everyone else, the season is kind of coming to an end now. I don't think anyone's that disappointed. Real heartbreak last night in Bilbao. Couldn't get it over the line. The Prem, it's been constant heartache, but that'll be over on Sunday. We can all Can all put our shirts away or set fire to them, whichever way you want to go with it. But United will be back, as they always say. Keep the red flag flying high, because Man United, they will never die. Take it easy, guys, and I will see you soon. Take it easy.